from being a couch potato to like an air fried, healthier potato. In this video, we're going to talk about how I went from being extremely inactive and having a very sedentary lifestyle to being somewhat active and, according to my phone, very active. If you've ever seen any of my videos, you've noticed that I've always tried to become more active. That's been a goal that I've had almost every single year. And though I was making improvements every single year, just a little bit, it was still, in my opinion, classifying me as very inactive with the level of activity that I was doing. So I wanted to share with you guys what I did to finally become at least somewhat active compared to where I was at in the beginning. So the inspiration. I know that exercise is important. I think we all know exercise is important, but I always kept it on the back burner because I never had to deal with it. I didn't have any of the consequences that I could see or foresee coming my way if I was going to continue to be inactive. It just didn't make a difference to me. But then I started to get closer to the third decade of my life, and also my genetic lottery of having a very good fast metabolism was starting to catch up with me. It was slowing down. And I was also starting to feel a little bit weaker, or I could feel that my body was not healing or as strong as it used to be. The plans that I had initially. So originally, whenever I would try to work out, I would just have a generic idea of what I wanted. I just wanted to work out. I just wanted to do something. And basically, the level of activity I was getting, which was negative, really. I didn't have any level of like actual activity or any kind of parts of my life that were requiring me to be active. It's aside from like basically like regular household work, which I really did not consider. So my plan would always be just be active, do anything. Anything is better than nothing. There was never any like clear vision on what I needed to do to be active. I feel like that's because there was always just so much of a like barrier, or there was just so much inertia to get me started. And part of that is because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what exercises I needed to do. Like I was like, okay, like walking is enough and that's it, but I would do like a few minutes of that and call it a day. And the second thing was I had no interest in going to the gym. I felt like it was an uncomfortable environment for me, and obviously like I am South Asian, so there are societal pressures to not be active or like gym because it's like not normal in our culture. That said, I never had to deal with it that much because I was never really fighting to be active. It just wasn't necessarily encouraged or talked about. So there's that. So that's what I was doing before for many years. Slowly, gradually, I was making some improvements, but for the most part, I was not really seeing that many changes in my activity levels over the course of like 5-10 years. I was never able to stick consistently with anything. I didn't even know where to start, and I didn't know what it was that I wanted to do exactly. It wasn't very specific what my goals were for exercise. I was just like, I know I'm supposed to do it, so like that's it, just do it. So what actually worked for me? I went from literally having no active lifestyle at all, and even like during my workday, I was not moving nearly as much as I could have or should have. The first thing I did was have a very specific goal, and my goal, because I didn't know what it was supposed to be, was just follow what the WHO, World Health Organization, recommends. And in general, they recommend 150 minutes. That's about 2.5 hours of moderate exercise per week. So that was the target. Get about 150 minutes of moderate level of exercise every single week. So how did I achieve my goal? I specifically aimed to try to do about 30 minutes of walking every single day, and I gradually increased it based off like how I was doing to eventually be about 30 minutes of walking 3 times a day, every single day, most days of the week. This was like the easiest thing that I could do. It didn't require any equipment. I could do it at any point in the day without any issue. And it just felt like something that was really attainable for me. And so that's where I started. So I had to really break it down and squeeze in time whenever I could. And that's where I started. One thing I kind of struggled with was like, this felt like so basic, and it was like does this really count? Am I cheating because I'm just walking versus other people are like lifting weights and deadlifting and I don't know what the heck they're doing, but they're doing all these really cool things. Does this really count? Am I really trying here? But then at the end of the day, it does get me closer to my goal, which is to exercise and just be healthier. And it's way better than what I was doing before. So that's what kind of helped me push through. In terms of how I was planning to stick with it, despite failing over and over again for years with minimal effort, was the fact that I aim to try to continue to do this for at least 2 months consistently, with the aim to not skip more than 1 day at a time. So if I take a day off today because I'm not feeling well, I have to make sure I exercise the next day just so that I would not fall off. That was the one thing I was terrified of, and I knew that if I did end up having to do that, it would be okay, but I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, and thankfully I did. So I was able to prove to myself that I can commit to a goal and I can stay consistent and I have the discipline to make it happen. It just definitely requires a lot of planning, even though it's a simple thing like walking. So if you didn't notice, I'm just trying to use the smarter method so that I could keep track of my goals and like make them very doable. So the next thing is to evaluate your progress. And what I did was I relied heavily on my smartphone to basically keep track of all my steps and the time I was spending, because otherwise I think I would not be as satisfied. And there were days I was doing a lot more walking than I realized, and I would not have known if I didn't like know this information using the apps. Now I know a lot of people have like smartwatches and Fitbits and all of that. I do not have that, and I don't necessarily want one right now, because for me, I wanted to just prove that I can do what I need to do without having to spend extra money and getting all like this extra stuff. I am definitely tempted to buy some of these gadgets because I think it would be interesting, and it's really encouraging when I see that I've done way more steps than I had ever planned for every single day. It just is really encouraging, and I have to be very conscious to constantly have my phone with me when I go on my short walks or my longer walks. So that's why I feel like if I did have one of those gadgets, it would be helpful, but I just feel like that's another thing to have to manage, and I just don't want to do that right now. So we'll see in like literally a year's time if I decide to go that route. The last step with the SMART goals is to revise, and what I did was I would look back at my app data and see where I have come from, and honestly, I have come so far. Alhamdulillah, inshallah. I keep this up because this has allowed me to just be better in other aspects of my life, and it's just great. It's amazing. First thing I noticed was that I was walking a lot more, and I was able to do a lot more walking than I thought I would ever be able to, especially this early on in my journey of being healthier. To give you guys an idea, like I literally went from about 3,000 steps, which is about like 25 minutes of walking in the full entire day, to doing as much as like 2 hours of walking. And obviously, like I don't have my phone with me all the time, and when I was tracking my step, I would have it on me more often, but based off like the trend that I was seeing for like many years, it was such a challenge for me to make sure that I was getting any walking at all, aside from like daily regular tasks, walking around work and stuff like that. So to finally get to a point where I could go as much as 2 hours in a day of walking, even though that is not my normal and regular even now, the fact that I was able to do that on some days was amazing to me, because that is honestly like so unheard of for me. And basically, because I was able to see the data on my phone, I was able to revise my goals and push myself a little bit farther every single week, to the point where I did not think it would be normal for me to be doing almost 10,000 steps or more than 10,000 steps in a day, but I regularly am able to actually do that now. And it definitely does not come easy, but I definitely feel like it's something that's way more possible, whereas before it felt impossible for me to get to even 7,000 steps in a day, which is like a little over an hour of walking for me, was like incomprehensible. Like I did not think that I could actually do that regularly. And so to be able to do 10,000 steps in a day is amazing, and I'm so happy when I do that. But of course, like I still keep like a slightly lower bar just to stay encouraged and not feel down if I don't meet that goal. But for the most part, I'm able to meet that goal. Like that's crazy. Like 10,000 steps. That's amazing. Like shukran alhamdulillah. Like seriously, Alhamdulillah, pat myself on the back for that. So that's how I did it. But I want to talk about how long it took for me to get here. So this was not like an overnight thing that I suddenly started doing all these steps and mustered all this willpower. It was a long time coming. I realized that I had been gradually trying to be a little bit more active and trying to walk a little bit more. Like every couple of weeks I would try to push myself a little bit more, and of course I would have weeks where I was not doing much activity at all, but it gradually got better and then just exponentially grew in like my progress in the last couple of months, because I really just was really specific about my goals and really like how I was gonna get there. This was like a very clear example to myself that you have to be very specific about what your goals are and how you want to achieve them, and give yourself grace and constantly like reassess and reevaluate your progress and make adjustments so that you can get yourself to where you want to be. Like I really had to mother myself and constantly like boost my own ego and be really encouraging and really rely on myself and take care of myself and make my environment possible so that I could get this done. And this also required a lot of changes. Like it required me to, you know, like spend less time on my phone, watching TV and doing all these activities that I didn't necessarily want to do, but they were just like the default things that I was doing. And I had to be okay with the fact that, you know, if I'm walking, I'm not necessarily on my phone scrolling. I'm not watching as much TV or, you know, just lounging around. And it's so hard to resist that because it's so much more comfortable, but you pay for it in the long run, right? All in all, I will say that at the end of the day, I feel amazing. I feel like mentally and physically stronger. I have even noticed that like on the days that I don't start my day or within the first couple hours of my day doing some level of activity, like I feel it a little bit. I'm like, oh, like I feel like I didn't stretch my body enough or work it out enough, and it kind of feels really nice. I'm like, oh, am I like stronger now and like need exercise to feel good about myself? Like it's like a good, like I feel like I did something. So moving forward, what are my goals with my exercise? So honestly, like I still kind of feel like, oh, I'm not really doing that much, but being active and walking as much as I am walking is a huge accomplishment. I have to constantly remind myself of that. But I do want to do more and improve like my core strength and like just like my whole body strength in general, because I have very weak arms. That's a thing. So I want to work on that. But prior to all those extra things that I want to work on, I want to just continue to maintain my consistency, my discipline. I do occasionally, the thing I've noticed with myself is sometimes I fall short one day of the week when it comes to my walking, but I look at my average amount of time that I'm walking per week now, and I'm like, this is so much better than I was doing before. So if I take a day off per week where I'm not hitting the goal, I'm still active, but I'm not hitting my personal goal for walking, I'm okay with it. So that's where I'm at. And then in terms of trying to do other forms of exercise, my plan is to try to do like 2 to 3 days a week, just like literally 10 to 15 minutes. I'm okay with like lifting like the smallest of weights. I'm not doing the 50-60 kilograms or whatever, literally 3-pound weights and 5-pound weights. And if I'm feeling really like adventurous, an 8-pound weight, and that's it. Like that, I'm okay with that level of activity. But the goal is to basically just, you know, do some weight bearing exercises and just improve my strength overall. And I have noticed that when I do that, I do feel stronger. Like I'm able to do the weights for longer, and it's like really nice. I actually feel a little sore from yesterday, and it was with a 5-pound weight, which was a big deal for me. The other thing is to try to slowly also incorporate like exercises to strengthen my core, because I know that I have a very weak core because I've never like exercised it. So that's the next thing. Those are the next steps for me. That is my update for my exercise journey and like being stronger journey that I've been trying to work on for literally like 15 years, and alhamdulillah, I feel like I have improved so much, and we only have 3 months left in the year, so inshallah the plan is to further improve, and I'll keep you guys posted along with my journey, inshallah, and I will see you guys in the next video. And inshallah the next video will be very soon, so definitely subscribe and leave a comment down below.